What would you say if I told you in this video I was going to show you a way to combine minor pentatonics, minor blues scales, major pentatonics, major blues scales, and the 3 arpeggios of a standard 12-bar blues progression all in the same scale? We're talking about one scale to rule them all. Plus, we're going to take it to a totally different level and show you how to stop practicing scales and turn your practice into a big game of playing through the chord changes and creating guitar lick after guitar lick, each one sounding better than the one you played previously. Hey guitar fanatics, I talk with advanced beginner and intermediate guitar players all the time, and one of the things that seems to be a huge mystery is how to turn the scales that they're playing into cool sounding solos. They say things like, well, I've learned the minor pentatonic, I've learned the major pentatonic, I've learned the blues scale, but I don't know which one to use where. Or even more common is, I've spent so much time learning scales that my solos sound like scale practice. One of my favorite sayings, and if you watch many of my videos, you're going to hear me say this more than once, is that you're going to play like you practice, so you better be practicing like you want to play. It just makes sense that if you spend a lot of your time practicing a scale in isolation, when you go to try to improvise or play a solo over a blues progression, well, you're going to default to that scale. Hey, do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's learn to play some blues licks the right way. Now, I want to take a quick second and say that I do think you should practice scales. We need to build up our fretboard knowledge, we need to build up our technical facility, and practicing scales can help you do that. However, I think the dark side of scale practice happens when people are just memorizing finger patterns. They don't go any deeper than memorizing those finger patterns, and it's possible to play the right scale over a chord and still not sound musical. That's because all notes are not created equal when it comes to relating to the chords that you're playing over. I think most guitar players need to spend more time listening to the individual notes of a scale and learning how they relate to the chords of a progression. Really getting familiar with the sound that they have and the emotional effect that they have when played over a certain chord. Then it would just follow that you spend more of your practice time creating licks and phrases that maximize that emotional content. So in this video, we're going to be playing a blues in A. So we're going to have the standard 3 chords. We've got A7, D7, and E7. So let's start building that blues super scale I promised you, and then I'm going to show you how to make never-ending guitar licks with it. So the first scale I told you that our super scale would contain was A minor pentatonic. So A minor pentatonic has the notes A, C, D, E, and G. You know, countless blues solos through the years have been played just using the minor pentatonic of the 1 chord. But I promised you a lot more than that today. So we're going to add the flat 5, or the blue note, the note that makes the blues scale blue. In the key of A, or over an A chord, the blue note of the flat 5 is E flat. So what we would have now, we've got A, C, D, E flat, E, and G. You know, the addition of that flat 5 just makes the scale sound smoother and slinkier, and you can really start to hear how we are mixing in a little bit of chromaticism. Okay, so we've already got the minor pentatonic and the minor blues scale taken care of. How about adding the major pentatonic? So A major has the notes A, B, C sharp, E, and F sharp. So that adds 3 new notes to our scale: B, C sharp, and F sharp. So C sharp happens to be the major 3rd of A, F sharp happens to be the major 6th of A, and B is the 2nd or the 9th of A. B also is the fifth of E, and F sharp is the major third of D. So those will come into play shortly hereafter when we start to mess with arpeggios. So our expanding scale now looks like this. And we've got all kinds of chromaticism now, and just running through that scale makes me want to play licks like. Well, what about the major blues scale? We said we were going to add that in too. Well, it just so happens that the flat third of the major blues scale, which is the blue note in that scale, it's a C natural, C sharp being the major third of the A major blues scale. Well, we've already got C in our scale from the A minor pentatonic, so we got that one covered. So now let's add our 3 dominant 7 arpeggios. So we'll start with A7. That's got the notes A, C sharp, E, and G. Yep, those are already in there. So how about D7? Well, D7's got the notes D, F sharp, A, and C. So yep, all those are in there too. How about our E7? Well, E7 has the notes E, G sharp, B, and D. Well, there is no G sharp in our scale, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to add that in. And lastly, we've got the major and minor third already of all 3 chords of our blues. We've got C and C sharp for A. We've got G and G sharp for E, but we've only got an F sharp for D. We need to add an F natural in there to have the major minor third of our D7. So you know what? We're going to throw that in there too. And there you have it, the blues super scale. Let's change the fingering a little bit so that it falls onto the fingers a little more easily, and we're going to go ahead and play through it. All right, let's go up to the A at the 12th fret of the A string and try it from there. Yep, works there too. How about going down to the A at the 5th fret of the low E string? Yep, good to go there too. So if you stay with me this far, you're probably thinking that I've lost my mind, that all I've done is throw together every note on the fretboard with the exception of a B flat. And you know what? You're exactly right. I've been messing with you this entire time, trying to prove a point. There is no secret blues superscale, and there is no one easy pattern that works for every situation. And frankly, I'm tired of seeing this kind of crap on YouTube, and I'm baffled as to why guitar players not only fall for it, but they seem to want more of it. Every day I see ridiculous crap like, play this B.B. King song with only one finger, or master the pentatonic scale with this one easy pattern. Do you really think you can master anything with one easy pattern? Do you really think you can master anything doing it the easy way? It truly makes me wonder what the average guitar player is looking for. Okay, rant over. The larger point that I'm trying to make here is that if you want to really get good, to really be accomplished, you have to do a little more, a whole lot more than just learn a few finger patterns. Number one, you need to develop some knowledge of the notes that make up the chords that you're going to be playing over. Number two, you need to develop a deeper knowledge of the notes within the scales you play, so you can relate those notes to the notes of the chords you're playing over, and you can accentuate the juicy notes, the really good notes. It's not enough to just play through scales. You've got to hit the notes that sound really and truly right. One last thing I'm going to say you need today is to develop the ability to switch between different scales and different arpeggios easily without jumping all around the fretboard. I just saw a video that's got a crazy amount of views with a guy that's teaching a very simple little fretboard pattern, but then having to jump all around the neck of the guitar to use it to make his way through a 12-bar solo. I don't know how anybody could think that that is good or wise advice. Okay, now my rant is actually over. Let's get back to that mythical blues superscale and see if it's something that we could actually use. So we started off building our Superscale by combining the A minor and A major pentatonic scales. And while the blues Superscale is mythical, combining major and minor pentatonics is very real. As a matter of fact, it's actually a cornerstone of good jazz, rock, blues, country, and pop guitar playing. And it's super easy to get started. All you have to do is add the major third to your existing minor pentatonic licks. So if we're playing in the key of A, that means we're going to add the C sharp note to our minor pentatonic scale. Here's what that would look like. Now let's play through it ascending. Now descending, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to hit the minor third first, move to the major third, and then drop down to the root. So descending would sound like this. This converting minor to major sounds really great by just adding that one note, and just playing through the scale, it already sounds more polished and professional. But we're not going to stop there. We talked about using the blues scale also. Now the A minor blues scale has the E flat or the flat 5 added to it. So now our scale is going to look like this. That's ascending, descending. Remember, we're going to play the minor third and then the major third and then descend. That chromaticism, again, it just sounds so cool and professional. You know, the pentatonic scale is great, but it can start to sound a little clunky, and adding those chromatic notes, it gives us the polish that we hear from more advanced players. And you know, you've probably played this type of thing before, whether you realize it or not. There's a popular blues rhythm that goes like this. And I've got A, C sharp, which is the major third, D, E flat, which is the flat 5, and then E. And you can take that little riff and move it around. If I move it over to the D note, use D as the root, works over the D chord. I can move it up to E. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe this blues Superscale thing isn't so far-fetched after all. And we're not done yet. I just introduced the concept of moving a pattern around and using different root notes. That little pattern contains a major triad arpeggio. In A, we've got A, C sharp, and E. In D, we've got D, F sharp, and A. E, we've got E, G sharp, and B. You might have even played that rhythm before and not even realize that you were playing basically an arpeggio. And if you can play the triad, you can definitely play the 7th arpeggio too. A, we would have A, C sharp, E, and G. D, we would have D, F sharp, A, and C. E, we would have E, G sharp, B, and D. And so there are 3 notes in those 3 arpeggios that aren't in the scale that we've just made so far, which is kind of what I would call our A minor blues scale with a major third added. And those notes are F sharp, G sharp. Those are the major thirds of D and E, and the B note, which is the 5th of E. Those notes are super useful, and they help nail the sound of each of the dominant 7 chords in the 12-bar progression. All dominant 7 chords have a major third in them, so that note is super, super useful. Using all the notes that we've got so far, it's super easy to come up with a shape that not only outlines the chords, but adds some chromaticism. For instance, we've got A, C, and C sharp, D, E, G, G sharp, and A. Or We could play a really cool lick that I heard Stevie Ray Vaughan utilize all the time. We're gonna go up to the 14th fret and start on an F sharp note. We're gonna play F sharp, E, then we're gonna play C sharp, C and B, and then A, G sharp, and G. And the key to moving that lick around is that you're starting it on the major sixth. So for E, I would go up to C sharp, D, I would go to my B note, and of course A, we start on F sharp. I'm going to stop there. The whole point of this Superscale nonsense is that the whole fretboard is a Superscale. And it doesn't really take that much work to learn it and start incorporating more into your playing. I'm going to challenge you to start asking a little more of yourself, a little more of your guitar playing, to stop falling for clickbait bullshit guitar lessons. You don't have to like my style. You don't have to watch my videos, but trust me, you can be better than you ever thought you could be. I promise you, I'll be out here doing my part, bringing you lessons that hopefully have a little something extra. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and that's all for now. Bye.